We have like the perfect storm. We have high interest in national security and AI colliding together. And so it's transforming the military for sure.
Welcome to Warrior Money, the show devoted to supporting our brother and sister veterans in business. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Kunze.
Today, we're sitting down with Craig Cummings, a U.S. Army veteran and co-founder of Moonshot's Capital. After serving as an intelligence officer, Craig turned his focus to venture capital, backing bold founders with a mission, especially our brother and sister veterans. From defense tech to identity verification, he's helping shape the future by betting on early, extraordinary leadership. Please welcome to Warrior Money, Craig Cummings. Craig, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Craig, we always start by doing bottom line up front. So we know how AI has changed everything. So from warfare to the recruits we're bringing into the military, how do you see it affecting the defense industry overall?
It absolutely, in a word, transformative for sure. I mean, becoming the brain. Not that we're going to offload the brain from the soldier, but we're going to allow the soldier to supervise the AI brain. I think from a speed, lethality, really speed though. I mean, I'm really focused on beyond like defense tech and what AI does for all of our businesses. Defense too is speed and how quickly we can make decisions. We can action on targets. Part of I think what's the surge in defense and dual use is powered by AI. We have like the perfect storm. We have high interest in national security and AI colliding together. And so it's transforming the military for sure.
I don't know where else you get the scale of data that you need to be able to run the actual AI, but for in big enterprise like the military, Department of Defense, and some of the other logistics organizations.
That's a great point, Dan.
Yeah, both Stephen Bannon and President Obama, two very differing personalities, have both warned about the impact of AI on the labor force.
Yeah.
How do you parse the value of it from the replacing humans and workers part of this?
I mean, I think that it will replace many of the tasks. I mean, we're looking at so many robotics deals right now that are going to be replacing people in warehouses, in delivery, but I think that's just going to free up the human for other tasks. So I think there's reason to be concerned about what's going to happen to our truck drivers. What's going to happen is so many manual labor jobs that can be replaced by robots, but I also think that we're going to shift into another industry, that we're going to train, and there's going to be more than enough for the humans to do.
It's crazy. It's like everything compounds, right? Everything compounds, and you've said before that like it takes 10 years to build a great company. It takes 10 years to build a great company. So as a veteran, as an entrepreneur, and as an investor, how do you see the shift from 10 years down to different years with the advance of AI?
Well, you're right. I've seen this more than a handful of times that truly great companies take 10 years. Like you can even ride scale, what Joseph and I did, we like had some fast success and sold out to Mercedes-Benz, but we were still there were like 15 of us, right, at the time. So like, truly building the culture and get it up. I think a lot of times you are having to wait on the proverbial tech stack and getting that in order. And so now AI is going to compress that. So I think in a few years, we'll probably say, well, it takes at least 5 years to build a great company. I mean, it definitely is going to compress go-to-market with technology, so I think it will. But I still think everyone can have their own answer here. You still have to build the relationships, build the trust, and then that's when you're really you're going to hit that.
Yeah,
one of my
favorite things about our conversations have been the evolution of like, how do we start a VC firm, and then how do we get to a place now where we only invest in stuff that truly transforms the world, or we perceive that's going to transform the world. Where do you see that happening at? Like, I know you're in space, I know you're in AI, I know you're in those sorts of areas, but what do you look for markets wise that's transforming the world now?
It's a great point, Dan. I mean, I'll just quickly retell, like when we're in Fund 2, now we're finishing out Fund 3. We had this aha moment where we were about to invest in a horoscope company that was crushing it and had great relationship with like Instagram and was blowing up. And then we just said, wait a second, is that important? Do we want to tell our
what's your
kids
core
about
mission?
how we? So
Does that move our needle?
we've
Yeah.
now the important right. So you've said it, space. We're looking a lot at robotics, and then like getting the infrastructure in place for robotics. So we're looking at more of those companies, even like Gretel AI, which we sold not too long ago to NVIDIA, and they were doing synthetic data 5-6 years ago. We didn't even know what
Synthetic
they
data
were
was.
talking about. Now it's like the last tactical mile
Yeah.
in AI. So kind of like getting the plumbing in for robotics, space, dual use is really popping. And
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think it's like the China threat is becoming a little bit more real for us, and I think we're all aware of it now.
It had to have been COVID, right? It was kind of like one of the first real signifiers was like, oh crap, our supply chain is screwed, and we've got to go rotate back this way. It had to have been.
Right. It was the critical dependency, like aha moment. Almost said some other words for that. But
and also what's going on the ground in Ukraine, with Russia. I mean,
absolutely.
There's no doubt. I mean, that's not like, and God bless Army Futures Command. I know it's in your hometown of Austin, et cetera, but like we're looking at what's going on right now in Ukraine and how they're fighting the fight. I mean, you saw what happened just, at this point a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
You mean the airplanes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, whether it was Pearl Harbor moment or not, it was Pearl Harbor-esque. I think we're fortunate that we saw it happen. It didn't happen to us, because usually the way America rolls.
Something happens.
America rolls, exactly. Right. Something happens, then we're like, oh, we need to do something about that. But we all saw that. And I know, like, can you imagine how many people walked out on the runway and just looked around at all their uncovered aircraft worth billions of dollars?
100%. And with 1/3 of the nuclear triad as well. So they are now ineffective in 2/3 of their capacities.
Yes.
It's wild.
And then I watched this video that's been going viral in social media about the number of satellites in space now. It's going by year. And it shows like 1 or 2 satellites like rotating around the planet. Then it's like 3 or 4. Then it's like 12. And then right now it is like full coverage.
Yeah.
And so you can see anything now, right? And you can. So if we know we're being continually monitored, how do we, as a military, like think about that? How do we position troops? How do we move troops? How do we position facilities?
Right. And when you look at the 5 areas, 5 battlefields, it's space is obviously, when it gets contested, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic that we haven't seen really yet. So listen, why don't we just put a pin in that real quick?
Yep.
We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. More with Craig Cummings right after this. Welcome back to Word and Money. So let's pick up where we left off. We were talking about space, and when you look at, there's no doubt about it. We look at air, sea, land, cyber, and space, and you look at how it's getting more and more contested. How is the public-private partnership area of that, where we're partnering with companies as far as America partnering, other countries partnering with private industry? How do you see that's going?
Well, it's going really well, actually. It's usually when you talk about public-private, the government, we're like, the government, they suck at acquisition. They're too slow, and there's certainly some truth to that. But the military and the intel community have been so proactive in trying to partner with private investment. So we actually got selected for a program, which, as I describe it to my mother, it's like we're partnering with the Pentagon. It's an Office of Strategic Capital, where we like grip hands to find great companies in all these critical technology areas. So it is somewhat bound, and then work with them, accessing government experts, accessing top secret clearances, so we can accelerate the growth of these companies. So it's an active program out of the Pentagon in partnership with the Small Business Administration. So they're leaning forward on working with us, where I think we used to be like separate. But I think the government realizes if VC, who has, or PE, name your investment entity, has dollars from you and your families and your schools, right? And they're seeing something, the government should at least look at it, because they're seeing a great team with great potential for this business to scale, versus like maybe looking away and saying, well, but there's somebody else who's doing this and it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's kind
We
of
should look at
interesting.
DC.
Like we can talk about all the advantages that we have geopolitically. We can talk about anything that we have notionally, but our greatest opportunity is our allocation of capital and the way we've resourced against our society as capitalistic society, right? So like if capital's making investments here, then our largest customers should also be making sure that they understand it as well. Like that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yes.
The other part, and frankly, capitalism is really good for both the consumers of it, but also the people that are being customers of it. So we have to support that very nicely. I got to ask a bit of a nuanced question because I'm really interested. I want to get this in here. Back in 2016, Patrick ran the Army. And it was one of the times where the Army met their recruiting goals. One of the only times that they met their recruiting goals, I think, over the 15 or 20 years. And it was over 60,000 soldiers in the year that they did it. The beauty of Office of Strategic Capital is that they're investing in component companies, and they're also investing in the ecosystem of the defense industrial base. If we don't have the people to support that or the military to support that, I don't know how we're going to field the capabilities that we need. So how did you do it when you were in the Army? What was that thought process like? How did you get to the right sorts of people? Because it takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years to get the right people in the field.
Yeah, and part of it's a leadership dynamic. You meet people where they are. So it's 60,000 on active duty, 60,000 in the reserve component. The majority of our soldiers, over 1 million, are in that reserve component, that National Guard, Army Reserve. But you meet them where they are. They're not watching commercials anymore. We were spending 79% of our marketing dollars, about $400 million a year, doing television ads. Young cats, my kids, they're not watching television. They're watching stuff on Netflix. They're watching stuff on their phones. And so, we switched that gear. We audited the Army marketing office, which pissed people off, but I wasn't there to make friends. I was there to make sure that we recruited the next generation of Gen Zers to come in to America's varsity team. And I think we're seeing some smart things, and what we talked about earlier, going left to boom, and looking at, if you're a cyber warrior, do you really need to, wear a uniform every day? Do you need to, we want you to be, at the terminal just taking ass and taking aims, for the USA.
Let me make a point here, though. So as you both know, our investment thesis is we invest in extraordinary leadership.
Yeah.
And separately,
So simple and how beautiful
separately, at the end of the day, nothing's more
what it comes down
important than
to.
leadership. And at the end, the CEO, so this is separately, the CEO must be able to sell, must be able to raise money. So shifting over to you. You would go out and do PT with soldiers around the globe. You would motivate them. You would get them excited. Like, it matters who's doing this too. Like, you have to have the whole machine.
Totally agree.
He's outside the box, but you also got to have Patrick Murphy, who you just feel it. You're like, and you're always like focused on the North Star of the cause and service. You still are today. Just go look at your Facebook. You're still the same guy. And that
appreciate it.
You got who's in the seat matters.
Yeah. Listen, I just the other day we came out the Army hit recruitment goals. I put on signal that our current SecDef said, "Hey, Pete, congratulations hitting goals. That's a big deal." And he spent D-Day, in Normandy, doing PT with the Range Regiment guys. And so I do think there's so many people though in America that want to be divisive, right? I mean, people might say, "Well, hey, Pete's a Republican, I'm a Democrat." No one cares. Like you care about the American soldier, you care about this country. And if people are trying, because our adversaries overseas, they want us to be divided within, and we can't have that. Let's talk about leadership. I don't like talking about myself. Let's talk about, I love the fact that, as Dan just mentioned, you invest in dual-use companies, you invest in extraordinary leaders. One of those folks was Blake Hall. You told, Dan and I were at your conference in Austin. We heard you speak about, you have 2 kids, beautiful kids. I got to know them. And you took the $25,000 that you had saved for Addie, $25,000 for your son. And you said, "Hey, this is the college fund, but I'm going to invest in you, Blake Hall."
Oh, I love it.
Tell us the story of that and Blake Hall and why you did that. Because, we're early sponsors as well of him and ID.me, but we want to hear that dual use company and his personal story.
Well, his energy is just infectious. If he's in a room, you're just going to walk out with him. I mean, if he's walking off the proverbial ledge, you're probably walking off the ledge. He was a Vanderbilt undergrad, Harvard Business School, and then becomes a standout performer, Bronze Star with V device in Iraq, comes back, starts, at the time, Troop Swap, right? Yeah. And that's where he met Kelly early. And he, my business partner, Kelly Purdue, they're like brothers. And so, that's like love there. I say I'm a brother-in-law. Kelly's the brother. I'm the brother-in-law.
That's funny.
And so, early on, Kelly's it's like, you got to fix this cap table. So right in the beginning, it was like tough work to get the capitalization table cleaned up. Some founders who weren't operating the business, and so Blake did, and of course he did it in like proverbial 5 minutes. So I came back and said, "All right, Kelly, I did it," and then we moved forward. But that is when you're invested in people. Like the first idea, Troop Swap, was like Craigslist at a military base, and I'm like, oh, it's interesting, but whatever he was selling that day, if he was selling coffee cups, pens, glasses, paper, we were invested in it. And then it became Troop ID, right? And he had all the plumbing in place to check identity of vets. And then the big aha when he realized he could do more than vets, he could do first responders, and then he could do anybody. And became like the premier digital identity verification platform.
Yeah.
IRS. I mean,
when you want people, I have to explain to people, like when you talk about dual use, it's like when you file your taxes with the IRS, you use ID Me.
Yep.
When you go to Home Depot or use Verizon, that veteran discount, use ID Me. And it's not just veterans. It's there's 14 federal agencies, there's 37 states. I mean, and there's all these private sector players that are using that because it's such an incredible tool.
Yeah, it's like, but it's also the original, the earlier point. Like everything compounds over time.
Yeah.
So the relationships compound, trust compounds, the ability to do the good work up front compounds, right? So you've led multiple series of investments in IDME. How do you think about that over time? Like you make a first good investment in any company, or first investment in any company, and then you're like, hey, I got a winner here, and I got to make a follow-on investment. Or hey, I'm not so sure about that one, so we're going to hold off. Like, how do you think about follow-on investments? And I think you were pretty eloquent about it in Austin, so I'd love to hear it here.
Well, you're right, Dan. The toughest decision is the follow-on decision, because now you have relationships with these founders. And some of them, like, oh, just a little bit more here and a little bit more there, and they can really pop. Meanwhile, you have a Blake Hall who's just crushing, and you have to make the hard decision of limited dollars to back the winners. Doesn't mean you leave the other companies on the side of the road. You still help them as much as you can, but you have not much bandwidth as a human, and you have limited capital resources, so you have to back the winners. Because takes one, right, or two in a portfolio to carry the whole portfolio. So you got to have the moonshot. You got to plow the dollars behind that winner.
Yeah, it sounds awful lot like Office of Strategic Capital, right? Let's invest in the right investors. Yeah. Let's make sure that we understand the terrain that we're in, and let's make sure that we're carrying the right winners forward. And sometimes you got to pick a winner. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go to Warrior Q&A, right? So this is rapid fire questions. So what is the one piece of money advice that you wish you knew when you were Cadet Craig Cummings at the United States Military Academy at West Point?
Well, I don't want to be too basic, but
you can be basic.
My daughter, who's just finished college, asked me, like, Dad, should I be saving money? And I said, Addie, if you just try to put away $25 a week, just $25 a week, what that would compound to over the years. And so I probably should have done more of that. I wasn't as good at saving, but I've always been good at like creating value. So I don't know. I've built the wealth on paper quite well, but I wish I had also like been doing this routine investing and would have like this huge.
You got to make it and
liquid nest egg.
You got to make it and you got to keep it. Like, it's really hard to do both.
Exactly. Doing something, right? Yeah. Just do some. If you can't do 25, do 5. You know what I mean? Like this is one thing I'm thinking in all things of life. If you can't do the whole thing, just like make some progress. Be the person who makes some progress.
What's the biggest financial mistake that you see people make that you wish that they knew better than?
I think I'll just take from my own playbook that invest in things you know.
I made that mistake every time.
Invest
I make
in
a mistake.
things you know.
It's
right?
always something I don't know.
Because sometimes we get thousands of deals, and sometimes it's like, especially a very compelling CEO, you're like, oh my God, this thing's going to the moon.
Totally.
But I don't know anything about candy. I just don't know anything about candy and how, but it tastes delicious. I want to eat.
Tell me candy.
It's so good. It's gluten-free candy. No. But so I would say invest in what you know.
Yeah.
How about what's one of the most unexpected things that you learned on the journey?
Well, I'll go personal for a minute because you both know Laden, right? And so my wife has had cancer twice, and it's always been, you hear it about, it's about the journey, not the destination. And when she got cancer the first time, so right before then, you ready for this? She would always throw her trash in the compartment of the passenger seat. I'm like, honey, I can get you trash bag. She's like, no, it's just I'll pick it up later. And then more trash. And then I go out and I clean the trash. Nice car. And then she gets cancer the first time. Nothing I'd rather do than pick up that trash.
Totally.
So like perspective, and we all have that moment that for me, it's been the cancer journey with her to be more present, not care about the little things anymore, like the things that would drive you crazy. Like, really, is that really important? Yeah. So, and I think that's affected me in everything I do, personally and professionally.
Yeah. For those who don't know, and I say this publicly, even when you're not even here, I always say you outkicked your cover.
Oh, man.
She's the general counsel for there in Austin.
Yeah.
Just a phenomenal being. Your two kids are awesome.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I was just at a funeral for, his name was Colin Crowley, Congressman Joe Crowley's son. He was a 25-year-old Marine, Naval Academy graduate that just succumbed to cancer. And I was there last week, and it does break your heart, and you don't know when, no one knows when it's going to be your last day. And I know for me growing up, my dad was after the Navy, was a cop in Philly for 20 years. She used to say, always, to my brothers tonight, she used to say, hey, always kiss your father before he leaves. You never know when you're going to see him again. And I think it puts perspective.
So true.
Yeah.
And I say for those relationships that you care the most about, just imagine for a moment you get that text message from your father, from your mother, from your sister, from your bestie. Don't wait for it. Get the relationship where it needs to be. Say the things that you need to say now before you actually get that text message.
Yeah. Well, Craig, we love you, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us and More Money.
Well,
keep crushing it, my friend.
What a pleasure to be partnering with you guys inside this room and outside this room.
Yeah, listen,
glad you're here.
Dan and I,
Awesome.
listen, we're proud to be your partner with Moonshot's Capital. We think you guys are kicking ass and taking names and really solving some of the toughest, baddest issues that our country faces right now when we compete against other countries that frankly want to do our families harm.
Thank you.
All right, well, God bless you.
Thank you.
Listen, that's our show. It wraps up Warrior Money for today. So listen, subscribe, and review Warrior Money on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast, or find us at Yahoo Finance. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Kunze. We'll see you again next week.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.